Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's City Council Candidate Forum sponsored by Irvine Watchdog. A few administrative items before we begin. We have a full crowd today, so I'd like to ask everyone to move inward to allow the latecomers to seat on the outsides. So if you could please look inside and move towards the center of the auditorium. Thank you very much. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones for the duration of the forum. Restrooms are in the building behind us with signs posted on the doors and windows. In case of a medical emergency, please notify an usher. Thank you so much for your attendance this evening, and now please welcome our moderator, Norberto Santana Jr. from the Voice of OC.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome. Good evening, Irvine. Thank you again for being here for another wonderful debate. These are exciting times to be able to see lots of different candidates running. Before we begin, I want to just take a few minutes to review the process to let you know how the questions here for the candidates have been designed. Several weeks ago, Irvine Watchdog, which is the sponsor of this event, conducted a survey to find out what topics residents wanted to discuss. The results are pictured on the screen behind me, and then they'll be followed up with solicitations for specific questions, and it was mapped to these topics. There were over 100 questions in all. Many were duplicative, and so for some similar to enough, they were combined. Given the limited time this evening, we will attempt to answer as many of those questions as possible to educate you. As you can see in the program, there are questions that will be answered by all candidates, and some that are simply yes, no. And that'll be answered with the colored paddles that are provided to the candidates. The questions will be shown on the screen. Every candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to the question, and to keep things fair, we'll start with different candidate each time. Our timer, who is Irvine's newest voter as of yesterday, Maya Jaffe, happy birthday, by the way, we'll hold up a 30-second and then a 10-second warning sign, just to keep everybody on track. None of the candidates have advanced knowledge of any of these questions. We will be publishing, or Irvine Watchdog will be publishing all of the received questions so that you, Irvine residents, can see for yourselves how the questions were combined and presented. Above all, we ask for a respectful interchange here. By attending today, the candidates are helping you make a more informed decision this November. So let's be careful not to heckle or boo. We have had unfortunately two last-minute dropouts or people that have not been able to attend. Carrie O'Malley has had a death in her family. Irvine Watchdog will be posting a video statement from Carrie along with the live stream of today's forum. We all send Miss O'Malley our deepest sympathies at this difficult time for her family. We also had Lauren Johnson Norris, who sent a letter saying that she will not be participating today. So those two candidates will not be at. We've also had a last-minute candidate, David Chang, who will be joining us. So this is Shea. I'm sorry, David Shea.
Yes, Shea.
David Shea.
Pronounced Shea. That's correct.
Got it. So David Shea will be joining us as well today. So we will go ahead and get started here with. We're just going to go straight into it. What I'll do is I've got a bowl up here that has the candidates' numbers here. So just to ensure that that it doesn't go one way every single time, I'll pick out, once I ask the question, I'll pick it out, and we'll go from there to the candidates. To the candidates, I'd tell you, if you want to challenge each other at times, you can. What I will tell you is just keep it within reason. Keep it reasonable. But again, if you see something that you want to check or go with, we will allow that. The idea being, again, is let's keep it respectful. And let's not go over time to be respectful to be able to get to all the questions for the public. But again, if you see something that shouts at you and you want to speak up, don't hesitate, just kind of grab my attention. I'll try to keep things moving. So that'd be the only thing I ask is that when it's time to move on, we move on. So the first question here would be, recently, there have been several villages have pressed the council to maintain the master plan of Irvine, but it practically took a lot of resident outcry. What can you do to improve transparency and communication between residents and our local government? So let's take the first one. Well, let's see here. Farrakhan. Is there a mic, Farrah? So I guess you come up here.
Hi, everyone. So one of the basic things that we can do, even right now, is to make sure that we understand what's happening at the Planning Commission, because that's the first part of any new development that comes into our city. And when we have planning commissioners in our city that have no experience or education in planning, they shouldn't be sitting there. These are appointed positions by city council members, and that needs to change. We need to make sure that we're reaching out to our community and asking them, if you have the expertise in planning, we need you sitting on that planning commission. And not only that, but publicizing any new development that's coming into our city. Us as residents and business owners, we need to know what's happening in our city, and the best way to do that is have that open transparency, that communication, where instead of blocking people because they're asking too many questions, we need to open that door wide and let people know what's going on and what's coming through the pipeline, so that we're aware of what our city will look like, not just today, but in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that is something that I feel strongly about right now that needs to change, not only today, but with this election, it should be one of the first things that we start talking about. How do we change our commissioners so that they are reflecting the expertise that's needed on those commissions? Thank you.
Thank you, Farrah. Let's go with the next one. Frank McGill.
Good afternoon. It's good to see all of you here. I'm glad to be with you because I know you all care about Irvine as I do. And I want to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank the Irvine Watchdog for defeating Measure B and Measure D on last June's ballot, because those two things were very emblematic of the fact that our city council is in the pocket of big developers. And that is the big overriding problem for so many of the things we want to deal with, including the transparency. Before I get to that, I also want to say thank you to those in a watchdog that passed that petition around when you were wearing this T-shirt. If I'm on the city council, I will ask the city council to put that measure or one like it on the ballot. Now, one of the ideas I have is to establish citizen advisory committees throughout the city, and staff would inform them early on to give them lots of opportunity to know what's coming down the pike and where they can comment on it. Right now, they don't want you to know what's going on because it's big developers that are running the show, and they know you're not going to like it. I don't like it, so we're going to turn that around. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Dr. Lee Sun.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Irvine Watchdog, for hosting today's forum. For the transparency is the most important thing for city government. The first thing is the commissioner's appointment need to be examined. How are they selected? I don't think it works when they are picked just by some other council members. Second is, again, all the planned projects need to be published, the same thing as earlier candidates have said. Third thing is that I think most of you have attended the city council meetings. You have observed that the city council members neglect all the public comments often, and they cite the Brown Act, saying that they cannot discuss. That's not true. I will make the city council to have a response to all the public comments from the previous meeting. So all you come to have public comments, next time the council meeting comes, they should have an official response. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sun. David Shea.
Voters of the city of Irvine, and yes, my nephew is the deputy attorney for the state of California, so I understand about conflicts of interest. In the judicial system, if someone is profiting from their decision, there's an opportunity for a resident to challenge their ability to vote on a measure. And so I would implement further abilities of of citizens and residents to challenge the bias and the objectivity and conflicts of interest of individual city council persons, such as the ability to seek disqualification of an individual that has a conflict of interest that is not a board, a council person's vote. And then I would also then give the citizens the ability to request disclosure of further disclosure, not only just a Form 700 financial interest, but things also of different to the first, as in the judicial system, a judge would be disqualified if the first degree of kin would have any financial interest in the decision. And so I would seek to implement something equivalent to that, so that, and then in addition, implement in the city code a requirement of the council member to disclose further than just their, maybe even third-party family members, their employments, and other. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. J.C. Woods?
Hi there, I'm Jackie Woods. Thanks so much for coming out. Now I can't see any of you. Step here, there, yeah. You know, I'm just so grateful that you all are here. I totally agree with everything that's been said. I think that what we need to do is totally open things up. These backroom deals, the meetings that are going on when the city council is not even listening to our impassioned pleas, and they're on their phones, God knows who they're talking to and what instructions they're getting. So I think it's imperative that we open all that. We have no electronics. Ed Pope has said that. He's going to ban all electronics if he's voted mayor. And I think that's important so that we're not having separate meetings with other people. I also agree with my colleague Frank McGill, and that we ought to have council people, citizens that come, that voice your opinions, that tell us what you think. I think we ought to also, I was just talking to Karen Jaffe's daughter, what a smart young woman she is, carrying the message. We've got to have our youth involved too, and bring your friends next time too. They need to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Dr. Kev Abazagian?
So I wanted to first thank the volunteers, the Irvine Watchdog Group, who've done an amazing job at bringing forward a lot of issues that are coming up among the City Council and the commissions and the Irvine Community Land Trust here in Irvine. They're all professionals that are taking time away from their professions to work as volunteers to bring transparency to our city. Regarding the question, I am proud to have been endorsed by one of the city founders that helped draft the general plan that created Irvine as it is today, Mary Ann Guido. She was there in 1971 when the city was founded, and was there in 1973 when the general plan, the master plan for Irvine, was crafted. We need to talk to, and I've talked to a lot of the city founders, we need to listen to the city founders to see what they did to make Irvine so great as it is. It is a top destination for people to live, to do business, to learn. And not only talk to those that have been there from the beginning, since the 1970s, but those that are here today and what their concerns are. We need to talk to community leaders, HOAs, and open up the discussion. We need to have transparency in terms of building and making sure that any kind of new development has a clear traffic assessment that has been vetted by outside sources to make sure it's proper. As a scientist, I'm all about transparency, and I will fight for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. John Park.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Park. Thank you so much for coming out on a Sunday afternoon. And, you know, this question is kind of at the core reason, if you will, as to why I'm running. So I'm running for Irvine City Council mainly to develop a city government that's more inclusive, more transparent, and operates at the highest levels of ethics. And so these recent issues we talk about with the general plan, I would be completely against anything that would interrupt the very harmonious nature of our entire village's concept. In fact, I spent 2 weekends in a row going door to door in Rancho San Joaquin, talking to the residents while that issue was still on the table. And it's when I spent 5 seconds in the neighborhood, you realize there's no room for, and never should be, any density apartments on that golf course. So what I want to say is, if I'm elected city council, you will have more access, you will have more transparency, and I will go out of my way to include residents at every turn. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's carry. Gang Cheng.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I'm happy to be here. My oldest daughter graduated from Irvine High a few years ago. She actually got full scholarship for $300,000 and just got her PharmD this year. I'm happy to be back here. Go back to the question. I agree with Farrakhan that we do need to appoint more qualified people to the Planning Commission. That's step number one. Step number two is the Planning Commission meeting is supposed to be open to everybody, but the problem is nobody even knows when they have the Planning Commission meeting. So we need to use social media, Nextdoor, or whatever to inform everybody about all the Planning Commission meeting. The third solution is if I'm elected, I want to make sure we go back to the village concept. Basically, within 1 mile of walking radius, we have all the service we need. That's why we have the successful planning of the Woodbridge area, which is award-winning. Number two is when they do have the area, they always build new school and move the students from old school to the new school. I want to make sure they go back either 5, 10, or 15 years. They need to reopen the old school instead of selling the old school to develop, to build more housing to make the problem worse. So that's my solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so next up we have a yes or no question. So here goes the first one.
How much time do we have to respond?
For yes or no questions, well, yes or no is yes or no. Yes is green, right? Boom, yes, no, yes or no.
So we have no.
Green is red, right?
Correct. Well, I don't know if you have time to think about it, but I mean,
Yes,
you're right.
green, no is red.
I think that's international, yeah. You? We're good?
Just want to put it on the red.
Yeah. Everybody clear? Okay. So first question. The Irvine Unified School Board recently adopted district-based elections instead of at-large elections. District voting divides Irvine into 5 districts. Each district would elect a different a candidate from their district. Do you think the city of Irvine should do the same for city council seats? So, everybody? Well done. Okay. Let's see here. Next question, which is also a yes or no. This past June, Irvine residents voted on a contentious Measure B regarding the Veterans Cemetery. Will you pursue having a Veterans Cemetery built at the original ARDA site? Once again. Everybody clear where they're at? Right. Number 4, question number 4. Okay, now this is not a yes or no. This you'll have an opportunity to go up and engage the audience. So question number 4 is a hypothetical question. So here's the question. A judge mandates that Irvine take 50 homeless people. What do you do if you're on the council? First one, John Park. So you're mandated to take 50 homeless people from a judge.
Well, if we're mandated, we would have to fight the issue in litigation. But I am not for a homeless shelter in Irvine, especially with the issues that were debated amongst the residents, obviously several months ago now. And with the homeless that were in question, mainly from the Santa Ana riverbed, as all of you know, and the types of that group that we were proposing that we bring to the 100 acres at the Great Park, I absolutely was against that, and I am still against building a homeless shelter in Irvine.
Thank you. David Shea.
Yes, I would investigate the issues behind the judge's order to determine if the judge made an error under existing precedent and try to seek a correction or reversal, and then review some of the more fundamental constitutional rights issues of self-determination, and then conduct an analysis and then appeal using the proper appellate channels to address the number of errors that would be that I would review very carefully that would be under existing precedent, and that would be in force and effect. And then also, I believe that there's an issue of self-determination, and every city has a right to determine its own destiny. And I believe that so I would be in opposition, and I would research the laws into every intricacy of this order, and to try to reverse, and if it's erroneous, to change it at the earliest opportunity. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Kev Abazajian.
So that's a great question, and it's not even a hypothetical question. It's almost certain that a judge will order that Irvine will do its part in helping the homeless crisis that we have in California and Orange County specifically. As a member of this community, as a member of the city of Irvine, which is an extremely privileged community, really, we are lucky to be able to afford to live in this city. We have a duty as people, a moral obligation to help those that are actually the least privileged among us, those that are in the hardest times, that actually cannot find a place to go home and go to bed. So I think we need to preempt this order. We need to actually go and find a way for Irvine to do its moral duty. And that doesn't mean, opening up a tent city in the 100 acres. It means actually doing it right. In the long term, as a scientist, I know the only evidence-based method for solving homelessness is permanent supportive housing with wraparound social services. That's what we need to do. That's the long-term thing, and that's what the county should have been doing with its $230 million for years now that it's been sitting on. So we need to partner with the county to do that in the short term. I think it's possible to find a short-term shelter in Irvine that does the duty we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Gang Chen.
I would let our city attorney to fight the decision, appeal the decision. I'm against any homeless shelter in the Great Park or anywhere in Irvine. It's a balancing act here. We all want to help the homeless people, but in the meantime, we don't want to endanger our neighborhoods. So, first of all, the homeless shelter is not 100% full. There's a a certain percentage of the homeless people, they choose not to live in the homeless shelter because they want to use drugs or whatever. If you read the newspaper, when they clear the riverbed in Santa Ana, they clear thousands and thousands of needles there. We don't want to bring this kind of drug addict to Irvine. If they have drug addicts, we need to send them to the drug rehab center or whatever it takes. So it's a balancing act. We want to help them out, but we want to also protect our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Woods.
Thank you. I think it's imperative that we open our hearts to people. But a homeless shelter and projects like they have in New York are not for Irvine. We have the Irvine way. Irvine has always taken care of the people that are less fortunate, the low income. We have about 8,000 units. We've always done our part, and we've done more than any other city in Orange County. So I think we'll continue to do that. I think that we need to discuss and oppose a mandate that would just dump 50 people on our streets. We need to help them. We need to find other facilities. Families Forward is doing a lot as well, and we need to give them a good round of applause as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Dr. Lee Sun.
Yeah, first we need to hold the county government accountable for the failures they have done. They hid more than $200 million for many years without doing anything. That created the Orange County homeless problem. Irvine, when in April, March, April at that time, and when there was a lawsuit to them, and they got scared and want to move the problem come to Irvine, and the citizens really organized to against that really bad proposal. If we get 50 homeless people, then we also need to take a responsibility. We will house them in a safe place. Any project, public safety is number one. So we'll not compromise any public safety. We will give them adequate medication, education, and help them to get a profession for the future. So we will do all the things to get them back to normal work. Thank you.
Thank you. Farah Khan.
All right, so this is a serious issue that deserves more than a hypothetical answer. We need some facts that our community needs to be aware of. And the facts are, the UCI study, the United Way study, shows that the majority of people that are homeless right now are families that were one paycheck away from staying in their homes. There are women that are on the street that are being abused because they don't have the support they need. There are children that are on the streets that are not in school right now. So when we're talking about homelessness issue, yes, we can blame the supervisors for not putting into a plan the $200 million, but also us as leaders, as a city of innovation that we call ourselves, we can't put our head in the sand either. If our supervisors aren't doing the job, we need to show them how it's done. And it's not about us taking control. Before there's a mandate, we need to hold the reins and tell the judge what we are willing to do and demand the rest from the 33 other Orange County cities. That's what needs to happen. And it's not about bringing homeless into our city. Do you know that we already have housing for the homeless in Irvine? Are you aware of the Irvine Land Trust that provides affordable housing not only for those low-income families, but those that are just coming off the streets? We already have that. So why aren't we putting some more effort into the Land Trust, opening that up to transparent review, and making sure that we are providing the housing that is much needed with the wraparound services paid by the county to help those that are within our community right now? That's where we start. But before we get to the point...
Time's up.
Sorry. All right, I'll come back.
Frank McGill.
Well, first I want to say that back when Measure B was a hotly contested item, there were only 3 people of all those that are running for the city council now that stood up and said no to big development. That would be Ed Pope. Ed, raise your hand over there, who's running for mayor, Jackie Woods, and myself. None of these other people stood up and said no. Some of them said yes, and others were quiet. Now, just a moment ago, some of them said, oh yeah, we'll pursue the veteran cemetery. Well, talk is cheap. Who has proven themselves to not only talk the talk, but walk the walk? Now, regarding the homeless, Irvine has a long, stellar history of providing affordable housing. We do more than our fair share than any other city in Orange County. I think we're doing a good job. We should continue doing that job. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, we're going to shift now to another yes or no question. So everybody get their paddles ready? The Irvine Community Land Trust was created in 2005 by the City of Irvine to provide secure, high-quality, affordable housing. The Land Trust receives funding from Irvine taxpayers. This year, the Land Trust Board voted to block public access from its meetings and minutes. Do you think the Irvine Land Trust should allow public access to its meetings and minutes? Right. That's everybody. Next question. Have you received any donations, either directly or indirectly, from corporate PACs, the major developers, or developer lobbyists? Okay. Now we're back to a regular question in the sense of that will require you to go up to the podium. Our city has seen unprecedented growth. We have overcrowded schools and traffic issues as a result. What is your traffic solution for the city? Kev Abazajan.
So there are actually a number of things that could be done to solve traffic in our city. One thing on there's like a short-term plans we can take up, and there are long-term plans. On short-term, we can actually implement more of the shuttle programs that help connect the business districts and the learning districts of our city. IBC and the Irvine Spectrum are high-density areas that could be connected with shuttles, like the iShuttle program that used to exist that's been cut back. We could also, one of the innovative ideas I heard from a voter at the meet and greet was actually to make dynamic lanes like they do in San Francisco, so that when people are coming into the city in the morning, we could have more lanes coming in, and then move it for the afternoon so there's more lanes going out. These kinds of innovative ideas are what we need. That needs to be solved. We don't need to have political appointees, special interest appointees into the city commissions. We need experts. I would appoint somebody perhaps from the Institute of Transportation Studies at UCI onto the Transportation Committee. At least someone with expertise and not a political favor. Thank you.
David Shea.
Yes, I would seek to implement a voter approval of development. Any units over 40 units, residential units or more, or 10,000 square feet would require approval of the residents and citizens of Irvine. And then technology is a very wonderful thing. Better algorithms in terms of planning green lights and analyzing traffic density, and using different problem-solving algorithms to try to gauge the different statistics on traffic use, and to make more network type of analysis, and utilize our technology to focus upon coming up with an optimal solution that will be instantaneous. And then also I would seek to implement a cease to the to the vision plan. The Irvine Vision, the City Council, approximately in 2005, implemented a plan which allowed residential development in business districts, and they went from approximately 55 units per acre to something where 55,000. I might not be 100% accurate on that statement, on that figure, and so that seemed to be an issue which resulted in this high density wall-to-wall skyscrapers that we were all seeing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Lee Sun.
Yeah, short-term traffic, there are many remedial measures we can take. For example, the synchronization of signals that should have been done many, many years ago. And also the iShuttle, we can expand that. I had experience of a long commute before. And when you commute to the place you work, it's difficult when you get off the train, then what do? So that's tough. If we have the iShuttle now, we should expand that from the Metrolink to all the business centers. And also between the business centers, we should have a good iShuttle. Really need to expand the service. And also, I would talk to the businesses. Actually, in my company, it's not in Irvine, it's in another city. And we have flexible hours. All our salaried employees could start anywhere from 6 to 9 a.m., anytime they want. So our employees do not have traffic issues. Also, long term, The traffic is a symptom, is not the cause. Really, the cause is bad planning. So long term, we really have to examine the planning process. And we need to use up-to-date traffic studies for all the projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Gang Cheng.
I would try to solve the traffic problem by going to the root of problem instead of just treating the symptoms. How to do it? Irvine is great because we have an architect whose name is William Pereira, master planned the entire city. Unfortunately, we deviated from the master plan in the past 10, 20 years. So number one is we need to go back to the village concept. Make sure we have, within 1 mile radius, we have grocery store, daycare, everything that you need. Kids can walk or bike to school. Number two, when developers build new schools, they move the old people from the old school to the new area. They can do it for 5 or 10 years, but they need to reopen the old school in the old neighborhood. That's the way to do it. Number three, I'm not going to stop all development, but I want to encourage mixed-use development around UCI area, because when I do door-to-door campaign, all the students say the rent is too high. If we do some mixed-use, like on the first floor, they could have 7-Eleven stores and so on. The kids can go downstairs to buy food, and then their dormitories upstairs. They absorb all the traffic within the same building, mixed-use buildings. That's what we can do. Besides that, we can do some temporary fix, like synchronizing the signals. For example, we all live in Irvine. The traffic at the signal at Jamboree and Main is the worst, and also there's another one right at Sand Canyon at the school is worse. So we have to make sure we solve the problem from the root, and then we can do some temporary measure to solve the symptoms. Thank you.
Thank you. John Park.
So traffic obviously is on everybody's mind. I mean, when I talked about knocking on doors, it's actually one of the first things people talk about when they open the door. And my guess is that if we find some videotape from 10 years ago, that's a candidate forum / debate, I'll bet they would be talking about Irvine traffic. So, this is kind of, for me, a cart before the horse type of scenario. The cart is the development. So if you really think about this scenario, the core issue is overdevelopment. We need to pump the brakes, quite frankly. That's what we need to do, and that will help a lot with the traffic. Irvine has set aside $79 million, 21 infrastructure projects to deal with traffic, widening roads, pedestrian bridges, flashing yellow lights. There's a lot of work being done, but if development doesn't get slowed, or at least, again, pumping the brakes, the traffic issue will never catch up. And 10 years from now, we'll be having a debate and forum just like this one, and we'll be talking about traffic then too.
Thank you. Frank McGill.
Well, the first thing I would do is to restrict the issuance of building permits. Historically, up until about 5 years ago, Irvine issued about 2,000 building permits annually, and for the last 5 years, they've been issuing 4,000 building permits annually. So we need to restrict the issuance of building permits to allow us to catch our breath and get a handle on the traffic situation, which might involve a lot of activities, including synchronization of all of our intersections all the time, expanding the shuttle service, which only runs in a limited time in a limited location, spread that out, provide more public transportation, and for more opportunities for people to walk and bike to work. I think there are many other solutions that we can brainstorm and get good ideas from you, but step one is limiting the issuance of building permits.
Thank you, Frank. Farrakhan.
So in 2015 is when I received the traffic study that we paid millions of dollars for, and it's 2018 now. And I believe John Park took the words out of my mouth when I was running in 2016. We've been talking about traffic, and we will continue to talk about traffic. One of the results from that study was to hire a traffic engineer. Our city did that. But now, what are we doing? I don't believe any one of us up here is a traffic engineer, but our city has hired someone. We need to make sure our council members are allowing that expert to do his job. There were a list of recommendations made from the traffic study showing how we can improve our traffic, and none of those items have been worked on. And that's something we need to do. We cannot keep coming up with new ideas, inventing the wheel. We need to go back to that study that we paid for and make sure that we have the expertise that is going to do the job and get it done on time, because that's what we need right now. And as far as building goes, when we're building high-density apartments and we're saying that we need this housing, we're not looking at the cities that are doing it right. They're doing it because they have the public transportation infrastructure already in place. We don't have that here. We don't even have a seat at the Orange County Transportation Authority. So we need to make some changes, and we need to make them now in order to make sure that we are a sustainable community in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Jackie Woods.
You know, we have over $100 million. It's moved from one account to another, but we have over $100 million at the Orange County Transportation Authority. We can greatly expand our iShuttle. I don't think it's a matter of widening roads. I think it's a matter of halting or almost halting development. We've gotten way out ahead of our skis. I think we need to draw in the reins. Stop all this building. We're already built out at 270, which was the plan. And they're still just ferociously building everywhere. You see all these big apartment buildings, and you think, oh, well, are they for low income? No, they're market rate, and they're expensive. For every building permit, one of those, you get 2 cars, you get 3 people, and you get 4 commutes daily. It's insane. We've got the money to do the iShuttle. We need city leadership to look at all angles. Thanks.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, we're going to shift back to yes or no questions, so paddles out. Here's the next one. Everybody ready? Every candidate for public office in California who signs the Code of Fair Campaign Practices vows to follow the basic principles of decency, honesty, and fair play. Have you signed the voluntary Code of Fair Campaign Practices? Everybody. Next question. Last week, Mayor Don Wagner placed on the City Council agenda a discussion to oppose SB 54, having to do with immigration, and remove Irvine from being a sanctuary city. Do you think Irvine should remain a sanctuary city? Interesting. Pretty clear. Kiddo? I mean, yes or no is yes or no. If you want to maybe take that up in your conclusions towards the end, you maybe can. Let's go here with, next question is a full question. Do you think housing affordability is an issue in our city? If yes, what do you plan on doing to improve housing affordability? And this is, again, is one that you'll get to address the audience. Gang Chen.
Housing is like any other merchandise. It's the price is decided by supply and demand. So to solve the housing price problem, I think we need to make sure we develop more mixed-use housing for UCI and surrounding area. One of the major attraction for the Irvine is UCI and that area. We cannot lower the housing price by stop development. But we do want to make sure the developer is held accountable. Once they build the housing, they need to generate the related infrastructure. For example, I live in Irvine since 1997. We have library. We have 3 high schools. So far, after 20 years, the population has tripled from 100,000 to 300,000. We still have the same 5 library, and we still just gone up to 5 high schools. We want to make sure the developer made their money, they still need to pay for the infrastructure before they can take all their profit and move on. That's what we need to do.
Thank you. Frank McGill.
We should continue our active affordable housing program that we've had for many, many years, and it's been very successful, and also encourage a mix of housing types, small, large, single-family, apartments, townhomes, etc.
Thank you, Frank. David Shea.
Yes, I would continue to maintain or expand more affordable housing. We have many individuals, such as our parents, maybe looking to move to a smaller residence, and the escalating prices are really something that is an issue, which is causing many people to move out of cities such as San Francisco, with things where a tent now costs $790 to rent, and a single bedroom apartment costs $3,500. So I think that that Irvine should maintain and expand greater options for affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. John Park.
So I believe Irvine's a leader in this area of affordable housing. We have 4,000 units already, slated to add about 5,400 units, and income at 30 to 50% of our median income of $92,000 a year. So we are actually viewed as a leader in this area. But you know, one thing about going back to development a little bit, all of you know about a lot of the apartments that are coming online. And one of the reasons why a lot of these apartment complexes are being approved is that they also, if you look at kind of the plans, they have to add a certain amount of affordable housing to their projects. Like, for example, if you build 300 units, a lot of these guys will commit to say, hey, I'll build 30 of them as affordable housing. So generally speaking, they agree to about 10%. And you'll see these approvals happening as a result of that. So in addition to all of the things that we're doing for affordable housing, I would actually like to see this percentage increase to somewhere between 15 to 20% for these apartment complexes. This is an area we can lead in. It's completely different from the homeless shelter issue. We need to be able to invite Irvine residents at all income levels to this great city.
Thank you. Jackie Woods.
My suggestion is that we put together an oversight committee for the housing settlement funds. There's $21 million in that. We want to spend it wisely. Right now, they're in closed meetings. We don't get to see anything. We don't know where the money is spent. I think we need greater transparency. There's a scandal brewing there, and I think we need to open all of that up and take a good look in the sunshine.
Thank you, Jackie. Lee Sun.
Yeah, Irvine as a city has been doing its effort in meeting the requirement of, every new project have 10% and above affordable housing. And for me, actually, I think the only way of solving this issue is not subsidy. I do not believe in subsidy. The key is to have good planning, have mixed type of housings, different tiers. You build the housings with expensive, you choose the ones you can afford depending on your capability. But I do not believe in subsidies. Thank you.
Thank you. Kev Abazajian.
So Irvine has been blessed with great planning. As I've mentioned, the city founders in the original 1973 general plan were inclusive and visionary in what they did. And one of the things they did is create a 15% allotment for all new development to have affordable housing requirements. That has made Irvine accessible to not just those who are privileged and wealthy, but also those from a broad spectrum of incomes. However, that 15% is for the median income and below. The median means the middle, okay? So the middle is squeezed into 15% of the allotment. So we can reassess that, as John Park said, maybe we need to increase that fraction. Another thing is that if you see what's going on with this 15%, with new development, the developers are putting aside some fraction of their funds to go towards this affordable housing requirement and to increase workforce housing, while they build the market rate stuff very rapidly. The stuff that's going on for workforce housing and more affordable housing is put off for 10 years. So we need to make sure that that housing comes online quickly and equitably. Thank you.
Thank you. Farrakhan.
So if you look at the business model or the master plan of our city, it included a portion of apartments, some townhomes, single-family homes. And it also, the percentage that we're looking at on affordability is 15% currently. But what we're not seeing recently now is that model is not being used. We are developing whatever the developer wants, and we're not putting in input from the city leadership. And that's what needs to happen right now, is we need to have leadership that's going to dictate what our community needs. As I'm going around meeting neighbors and voters, I'm finding out that we have multiple families that have kids in their 20s and 30s living at home again because they cannot afford a place to live and there isn't a home available for them. And the reason that is because, you know what, we can build as many multi-million-dollar homes we want, but if we're not serving the community that is here, who are we building these homes for? What are we doing to accommodate the population that we have here? And one more thing I'd like to add really quickly is the master plan for our city was set up to be 70% homes and 30% apartments. Currently, we are at 50% and 50%. That needs to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Farah. I added one last here question at the behest of a member of the Orange County Grand Jury that I was able to see in the audience. And by the way, I would tell you all that if you ever have a chance to join the Orange County Grand Jury, it is a wonderful chance to participate in your government. They are a roving sort of an analysis unit. They take a lot of time. They dive into some really good issues. We as reporters love the work they do. Here's the question that was put forth. Absolutely, you should go check out your Orange County Grand Jury. I've called it the highest form of citizen involvement that you can do. It's really a huge work. And here's the question: Irvine City Council recently voted to remove Irvine from the Orange County Fire Authority. What is your opinion on that issue, and what should Irvine do moving forward? Let's see here.
Correct. They haven't voted to remove. They're considering it. It hasn't been removed.
Let's redo that. Say they're considering to remove. I appreciate that, Frank. And what is your take on that? Should Irvine, in a sense, be removed from the Orange County Fire Authority? Do you think Irvine is getting a fair deal from the Orange County Fire Authority? Make sense, Frank? You're up first.
Is this yes or no?
No. This is one you can speak to it.
I may have my figures off a little bit, but I think it's something of this neighborhood. We pay $60 million to the fire authority every year, and we only get $60 million, and we only get $40 million in services. So that's a significant disparity. And I believe we should look seriously into withdrawing and having our own fire department. We have our own police department. Why not our own fire department? But I can't say definitively that we should do it, but it deserves serious consideration.
Thank you, Frank. Kev Abazajian.
So I was speaking to another city founder that was involved in setting up in selling the Irvine Ranch to the Irvine Company and a lot of the activity that was happening right at the start of the city. And he told me that, about one of the projects that he was involved in, and he said, that decision was so stupid it must have been political. And to me, the decision to pull out of the Orange County Fire Authority is a political decision. We are putting in more than we get back, but we have to be at the table with them to ask for something in back. And if we leave the table, we're not going to get anything back, and it's going to go into litigation. It's very complicated. We were offered new firehouses from the Orange County Fire Authority, which are very expensive. We were offered a lot from the Orange County Fire Authority, and we need to keep that dialogue open to make sure the city's getting back what it deserves. We don't need to complain about taxes when it's a very complicated state, local, and city, county, and state funding structure that is the way the Orange County Fire Authority gets funded. So I'm for staying in the Orange County Fire Authority and making sure we get what we deserve.
Thank you. John Park.
So I believe that it's a good thing that we've entered into negotiations. So the way the Orange County Fire Authority's budget works is that Irvine actually pays for 15% of their entire budget. And over the next 12 years, we'll actually overpay by somewhere in the ballpark of $200 million compared to the services that we receive. Meanwhile, the Orange County Fire Authority carries a pension liability debt of nearly $500 million. So this is a complicated issue, but because I'm running for Irvine City Council and I'm fighting for the residents of Irvine, I'll say that it's really good that we entered into these negotiations. The reason being is there's a lot we can do with those $200 million, including, by the way, building the Veterans Cemetery. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Woods.
As has been mentioned, it's a very complicated issue. I think that we need to sit at the table. I know, remember the sheriff a few years back, they changed contracts in several cities in Orange County, and that turned into a big mess. So I think it takes a lot of forethought, and I think we need to sit down together, figure it out. We are paying much more than we get back. But they had some ideas about equipment, buildings, doing a lot of different things, and I think we ought to just all sit down. It's just too complicated to just give a yes or no, which is the question that was asked at the forum that we did a few weeks ago. It's not a yes or a no answer, and I think it means looking at everything. And there's a lot of smart people here. You've studied the issues, you know what's going on, you know what's good, what's bad, what's a possibility. And I think the appreciation for any of us that's running is that you all will help. You all will come with your ideas, your expertise. I mean, the education is so fabulous here in this city, and the people are so wonderful. And if I'm elected, and Frank and Ed, we really want to welcome people coming with their ideas and have open dialogue. Thanks.
Thank you, Jackie. David Shea.
Yes, I believe this issue is very familiar with the pension funding for the CalPERS. And then I've studied this issue with CalPERS, and I found that many of these investments that were being done by the individuals charged with the responsibility to do that were investing in things that were very fraudulent, such as fraudulent mortgage-backed securities that have been sold maybe 2-3 times. And because of this issue, I believe that the city should retain its independence and should, with its fire authority, should be able to have that independence to be able to ensure that that value is achieved for the number of taxes that are paid, and to cut down on corruption. And then thank you very much.
Farah Khan.
All right.
Quick education moment. So the way the Orange County Fire Authority is funded is through our property taxes that goes to the county, then it goes to the Orange County Fire Authority. It does not go directly from us. If we pull out, we don't get any money back. Our money still goes to the county. So this idea of we'll have $200 million to spend wherever we want, that's not our money. So why we should not pull out of the Orange County Fire Authority is because yes, we pay a lot more in our property taxes and we don't get enough back. That's something that we can negotiate. But are we willing, without a backup plan, without some sort of local fire authority already in place, willing to put ourselves in danger? We have fire hazard areas surrounding us. Are we willing to negotiate our lives and say that, you know what, we're going to pull out and then figure out how we're going to support our services here locally? We don't have the opportunity to do that. Not only that, but we're looking at Orange County as a whole. When we pull out, we are also putting into danger those smaller cities that do not get the services they need, and we help provide those services. So it needs to be a negotiation for sure, but it needs to be done correctly and it needs to be done right. We cannot be in litigation all the time, something that our city leaders love to be in. We cannot waste our taxpayer dollars in litigation anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Sun.
Yeah, the undisputed fact is that we are overpaying quite significant amount of money to the OC Fire Authority for our services. Now, a bad contract is a bad contract. We take it. For the past, we really cannot do anything. Those money are not ours. It belongs to the government, that's fine. But for the future, we definitely need to do something. We really need to engage in friendly, serious discussions. We cannot just still do the same thing. $200 million is a lot. As we said, can you think about that put in our schools? $200 million, our schools were the best in the country. Sure, that's hypothetical. We cannot do it for the past. For the future, we really need to engage in very serious discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Gang Cheng.
The solution is very simple. I'm not sure the city might have done a comparison study. If we stay in with OCFA or do set up our own fire department, which one is a better deal for us? But make sure we include all the costs, including the pension for the new employee of our own fire department in the study. So if the study result comes out that we are going to get a much better deal, why don't we just set up our own fire department? I have no problem with that. It's our taxpayers' money. It's not my money. It's not your money. It's not the city council's money. It's not the mayor's money. We are just the guardians of our taxpayer money. We need to use it wisely, just like you're buying a big piece of furniture for your home. Whoever give you a better deal, go with it. That's it.
Thank you. So I'm going to follow up with another question here for the podium, which is, what can you offer our city that is unique from other candidates? What can you offer the city that's unique from the other candidates that are up here? Lee Sun.
Yeah, first, I will bring integrity to the city council, free from any special interests. Second, I will bring responsibility to the city council to maintain balanced growth, commensurate with our capabilities. Third, I will bring capability to the city council with doctorate degrees in both engineering and the law, and many years of professional experience. Last but not the least, transparency is the most important. And I will bring transparency to the city council, make the city council responsible for all residents, and ensure the bright future for Irvine. Thank you.
Thank you. John Park.
So as far as what I offer differently, I'm not sure if it's different, but I would tell you that first and foremost, I would say access, transparency, and I would say the highest level of ethics possible as a city council member. As far as my background in business, I believe that that's unique of myself because I have 25 plus years in business. I've been a business owner for the last 13 years. I've controlled and made decisions on $100 million plus budgets in my career, and I believe I'm the only person up in the stage that has done that. So I've negotiated multi-million-dollar deals with municipalities. I have also built infrastructure and telecommunications in my earlier days in corporations. So I think that my business acumen, my pragmatism, my willingness to listen to all sides of the issue is, I believe, uniquely myself. Thank you.
Thank you. David Shea.
I believe that I would be distinct in my focus to help residents achieve the American dream, to be better than your parents and to have high education, be able to contribute positively to society, and also a city where individuals make a difference, not a personalized city where multinational monopolies treat us all just like a form of cheap labor to be replaced. I would like to focus upon not only just on economic growth, but the quality and the kind where it empowers individuals. And then also, coming from my background, my father was a doctor of science in MIT, and we ran an electrical engineering company, computer company in Irvine. And one of the things that I saw that hampered most small businesses was that the available of resources such as loans, such as investors. And I think that the major banks were too quick and willing to give their money to the Dells and the very large monopolies. But then what I would implement is seek to have a tech forum where maybe Irvine citizens can meet the different inventors and entrepreneurs and consider investing, just like what will be the MIT Tech Forum. And then also have Irvine by Irvine Days to help promote more Irvine residents to achieve the American dream, to run their own business or to promote greater opportunities for Irvine residents. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Gang Chen.
Irvine is great because it was master planned by an architect whose name is William Pereira back in 1960s. Unfortunately, the city has deviated from this master plan. So it was master planned by a great architect, so it takes another architect to bring it back to its right track. I'm the only licensed architect for the entire panel, okay? So we want to make sure we restore the village concept. We want to make sure to hold the developer accountable, make sure if they move the school to a new location, they reopen it after 5 or 10 years. And as an architect, we not only just design buildings, we are a coordinator of different stakeholders. We coordinate with owner, city, different consultants, contractors, everybody. So my entire life has prepared me for this great position of city council. And last but not least, I'm one of you. I have worked in Irvine since 1995. I bought my first house in 1997. All my kids went to Irvine Unified School District. Irvine is my home. I love this great city dearly. That's why I want to run for the city council to service you, to give back to my community. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Woods.
Well, I'm not an architect. I wanted to be an architect, but I didn't want to do the work it took to be one. And that's the truth. What I bring that's unique is that I've been here 47 years, and I don't know that anyone on the dais can say that. I marched on Washington for women's rights 50 years ago. It wasn't that I wanted to take men down, but I wanted all the women's boats to float. And over the decades in my business careers, I'm a presiding judge at the real estate board, have been for almost 20 years. And you don't get asked to do that kind of work unless you have ethics and standards. My dad died when President Reagan died, and he's buried in Arlington National, and my father got the same funeral that President Reagan got. We lived overseas. We lived in occupied Germany right after the war. I spoke German before I spoke English. I graduated high school in Taiwan. My parents put me on a ship and sent me back to the States to go to college in Southwest Virginia by myself. And so, I have unique experiences. I'm a world traveler, as almost everybody in this room, I think, is. I think we're quite a melting pot here in this city, and I think we need good city governance and good city leadership, and I hope I get elected to help do that and bring the transparency.
Frank McGill.
Where I'm different from everybody else that's running for the city council is that I'm an urban planner. I have a master's degree in urban planning. I worked for the Orange County Planning Department for 30 years, where I helped to create 15 planned communities. I know what good planning is and what it's not, and I can tell you for the last 5 years in Irvine, it hasn't been very good. I've interfaced closely with all elements of local government. I know how government works. I believe I can help turn Irvine around. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Kev Abazajian.
This one's kind of easy for me. I'm the only scientist running for Irvine City Council. I've got a PhD in physics, and I think we really need the kind of expertise, the kind of viewpoint that science brings to elected government. If you see, we really need a diverse set of viewpoints on the council. It's great to have architects running, it's great to have business leaders running, it's great to have attorneys on the city council. But when you get involved in the kind of rhetoric that goes on in politics, you kind of forget about the facts. And I think what we need a lot more on our city council is the facts. Okay? That is what we need, and that is what I will provide. There's what I teach in my general ed courses for students from all over campus at UCI about the difference between rhetoric and science. Okay? A lot of elected people and a lot of our leaders currently are really good at rhetoric. They're really good at arguing something and convincing you they're right. We need some of that. We also need the facts. We also need the evidence behind the rhetoric. And that's what I will bring. I will look at what is actually the traffic impact of the plans that are in place and talk to those that want to plan a better future. And so I'm the only candidate that's been endorsed by 5 members of the National Academy of Science. I'm the only candidate that has been endorsed by 5 deans, including 2 founding deans at UCI. So vote for me.
Thank you. Farrakhan.
Just want to give a shout out to my UC Davis Aggies, if there are any out there. Go Aggies. I'm probably the only Aggie up here. So. No, but I think, many of us come to Irvine seeking the safety, the education, the cultural diversity, the economic opportunities. But how many of us have put in the time and effort to be at the city council meetings, meeting after meeting after meeting, fighting for issues that protect all of us? I've been doing this for the past 5 years. That's why in 2015 is when I decided I really wanted to run for city council, because I was tired of going to city council meetings and telling our elected officials what they were doing wrong and how they should be doing it right. I was tired of going door to door, gathering people to come with me to those city council meetings to stand up, because in numbers is when we win. And I was tired of telling the city council members that they had to stop lying to us. I'm battle tested. I ran in 2016. They attacked me with $70,000 of negative mailers going to every voting household, and I still came in 4th out of 11 candidates as a brand new PTA mom running for city council. And this year we have an opportunity with 2 open seats, no incumbents running, to get 2 people elected that'll represent us. And that's what I'm asking for you, is your support. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're beginning to get to the end of our session here. Farah, you mentioned a point earlier that you wanted to speak to SB 54. What I figured we'd do is just open this up a little bit for any of you to speak to any issue that has come up in the forum that you want to kind of go a little bit deeper on. That'll be next to concluding remarks for each one of you. Everybody good? Okay. So I'll just pick out names again at random and let you come up and just kind of go into one area that you thought you wanted to kind of go into a little bit deeper. David Shea.
Yes, one of the issues that I would seek to expand and go into much more deeply is the issues of corruption. Irvine residents have lived in a city where for too many times crimes have not been prosecuted. The Great Park, the former past administration, the very definition of bribery took place. A gift, emolument, a future promise of employment in return for official action. And in the case of the Irvine residents read these reports on how the former mayor was giving a no-bid contract for consulting fees for close to 106 figures. And no one in the Irvine City Council had any type of integrity or courage to stand up and say, this is wrong. This should be prosecuted. And the net effect is that this is creating a system where the former city council people, they speak nice. They say, oh, we need to investigate. But was there ever anything ever done? And is there going to be a deterrent to any of this in the future? And so what I would say is that, I would require more disclosure of economic interest to a level probably unprecedented in public government. And then I would, in addition, I would seek to have the city different authorities to prosecute and enforce. There's no excuse for this type of conduct. What that did was divert money from building the Great Park to be something that would live up to the expectations of the community.
You're up.
And thank you.
Thank you, David. Jackie Woods.
Well, what we're running on is no on Measure B. No on Measure B builds the cemetery in the Great Park where it was initially funded, approved by the state, by the city, by everybody, until the corruption took place. And one of the members said, I think I'm confused. We're not confused, and luckily we didn't pay attention to it because 63% of the voters said no on Measure B. No on Measure B, building the cemetery is one thing, but what it accomplishes is it keeps that 125 acres out of the hands of the developer to put 10,000 more cars on the road. Our city, we never cared who was running the city for many years because they were doing such a good job. And now in the last 6 years, the word is corruption, the things that are happening, the developer gets to build whatever he wants, and the study says, well, it'll make 12 intersections dysfunctional, and they've been told, okay, the zoning isn't proper for this building they want to do. Okay, they changed the zoning. We've got to stop it. We've got to be transparent. We've got to be honest. We've got to stop taking money from special interests that build just for themselves and not for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Farah Khan.
So real quick about SB 54, the only reason that I support that bill is because our federal government has a job to do on immigration, and they do their job. What we don't want is our police that is supposed to be serving the community doing the job of the federal government. And that's really what the bill stands for, and that's why I'm in support of it. As far as my running, again, I've got kids in our public schools. 2 of my boys go right here in Irvine High School. And I feel that it's about time that if I, as a PTA mom, as someone that is the executive director of a local nonprofit that deals with the faith communities and other nonprofits on issues such as homelessness and human trafficking, as someone with her husband runs a restaurant and catering company, someone with a background of 8 years of regulatory affairs management at a biotech, if I'm such a threat where my opposition feels the need to spend $70,000 against me to not get me into office, that should be a signal for everyone. We need people that are not connected with the current council. We need independent thinkers. We need people that are going to step up and speak out, and not just speak out during election time. In between 2016, even before then and now, you'll see, if you go back to the videotapes, you'll see me there. I'm speaking up on the issues, and I hope to continue to do that on behalf of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Farah. Frank McGill.
In conclusion, I would just say that I've lived in Irvine for 42 years. I raised 2 boys here, and presently I have a little granddaughter growing up in Irvine. I want Irvine to be as nice for her and for you as it was for my 2 boys when they grew up. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. John Park.
So a couple of things, and thank you actually for giving us the opportunity to be able to do this. On the SB 54 issue, I was at City Hall last week when everybody came out passionately because it was put on the agenda. And there were some people, Irvine residents there, and there were also people from the outside speaking on this issue. And I sat there and listened the entire time, and I said, is this happening in America's safest city? 13 years running? Is this really an issue? And I came to the conclusion that it was a nothing burger. And that's why I voted the way I did. SB 54 is not an issue in Irvine. Now, it could be an issue in other cities. Sanctuary city status is not, could potentially be not right for certain cities in California. But again, in Irvine, it's a nothing burger. And I hope you'll all agree with me on that. Now, as far as some of the stuff that I heard today, I really want to point out the fact that I'm running for Irvine City Council. And I think that what I hear today is a lot of talk about our duty to the county, by the way, who operates on a $6.5 billion budget, and our duty to support them, etc. And I have to tell you, I don't feel that way on many issues, because again, I'm running for Irvine City Council, the budget, the money, how I represent the people. The people that I care about the most on every issue will be first and foremost Irvine residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Gang Chen.
On June 5th election, the voter voted down Measure B. In the meantime, the voter also voted on Measure C, make it even harder to raise tax in Irvine, require 2/3 of vote in City Council. So that margin is 70%. So that means Irvine voters really care about their money, really care about their tax money. As far as somebody was talking about building the veteran cemetery in the other side, I just want to make sure everybody knows there's an $80 million price tag. If Irvine voter is okay with it, I'm okay with it. If you want to change the money used for the great part for that Irvine, the cemetery, that's fine with me as long as the voter approve it. That's my point. The reason why I'm voting for City Council this year, because I live in Irvine for so many years. I moved into this great city in 1997. I bought my first home here. After that, the city has given me everything. I raised all my kids here. I really care about this city. And I want to make this city better, and this is my home. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Kev Abazajian.
So there are a lot of different topics are coming up with this little open question. And I think I want to just talk about, I think, what is the pervasive thing that has gotten me to run, and after being here for just only over 7 years. My wife and I moved here with our son, who goes to our neighborhood school, because it was an amazing city to live in. We've also seen in the past 7 years a complete derailment of our political process. If you see what's happening, and you're here, so you probably know, but it's been taken over by independent expenditures. There's about $1 million spent every 2 years at the behest of the special interests that are putting in that money to get their people on the council, with attack ads and pro ads. That $1 million is about 10 times more than any individual candidate typically raises, about 100K. So Irvine has just become completely derailed in its elected leadership from the people that it represents. Things like trying to move the veteran cemetery, which would have been a boon for one of the developers. That was a symptom of this kind of malfeasance and basically control of the council. And also, SB 54 is a sign of the disconnect between the elected officials on our council and the mayor and our city. This is a city of immigrants. And we need to protect this city, and we need to protect UCI students who are among those who would be affected by SB 54.
Lee-Sun.
Although I have not lived in Irvine for 30 years, 40 years, but I have been here for 16 years, and the family benefited greatly from the good schools and good safety of the city. And my first daughter graduated from the public school and went to Harvard. My second daughter and son also graduated from public schools, went to UChicago. I really love the city. But Irvine is still one of the top in the nation. We just was the second, ranked second as the best place to live. But there's a clear decline. I see that clear decline in the schools, public schools, and also safety, and also everybody knows traffic. We really need to have people in the city council who are responsible for the residents and keep Irvine as the best city to live for generations to come. And the greatest strength of Irvine is diversity and innovation. Do we see that in the city council? Today's 10 candidates are a really good panel. Please vote 2 of these in this panel to the city council, and the city council will have diversity and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to concluding remarks now, and again, I'll pick some names. You thought that was concluding. Well, I had said that was something so that you could add on to something throughout the debate that you wanted to sort of talk onto. If you don't want to do concluding debates, you do remarks, you want to just call it here? Everybody's comfortable? All right, fair enough. This has been a wonderful panel. Again, a wonderful spirited debate. I certainly appreciate all you guys coming out. I do think you have a good sense here of what you can vote for and what each candidate is providing. So thank you again, Irvine, for always engaging. Oh, thank you. Wonderful job. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Great job. Thank you so much. Great job. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good job out there. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.